I have two deposits with one Amana and one 200 Zuz. And
Hold
this
on.
one says,
We're on Gimel Gimel.
okay, we'll go. Okay. If one says to two, I robbed one of you of Amana, but I do not know which one of you or the father of one of you deposited Amana with me, and I do not know which one it is. He gives this one Amana and that one Amana because he admitted to him by himself. If one deposited, one was two deposited with one Amana and one 200 Zuz, and this one says the 200 are mine, and that one says the 200 are mine, and it gives this one Amana and that one Amana, and the remainder should be put away until Eliyahu comes. Rabbi Yossi, he said to Rabbi Yossi, if so, what does the doer lose? Rather, everything should be put away until Eliyahu comes. And so it is with two utensils, one worth a mana and one worth 1,000 zuz. This one says the more expensive one is mine, and that one says the more expensive one is mine. He gives the smaller one to one of them, and for the larger one, he gives the value of the smaller one to the other. And the remainder should be put away until Eliyahu comes. Says Rabbi Yossi, if so, what did the deceiver lose? Rather, everything should be put away until Eliyahu comes. Great.
Okay. Important to note that in both of these cases, the reason why the shopkeeper can get off and say, oh, he has to hold on to it and he doesn't have to pay 100 to each of them, the extra 100 to each of them, is because they came to him together, and when they first deposited the 200 plus 100. All right. So they came in together, and the shopkeeper said, "Oh, you guys are together. Basically, he's accepting 300, finished." And now they come back to him afterwards, and they're disputing and saying, "No, the 200 is mine. No, the 200 is mine." And the shopkeeper can say, "Okay, well, I don't know who's got the 200, so I'll give you 100, you 100, and keep 100." Or according to Rabbi Yossi, keep the whole lot until you can find evidence, or until Eliyahu Navi comes. Um, so, whereas had it been the case where there were two completely independent people, and one gave him 100, and another one came and gave him 200, and now he's lost his records of who gave it to him, then it's like the previous Mishnah where he says, "Oh, look, I've got money from I've got 100 from one of you, but I don't know who it is," and he's got to give the 100 to both of them. So that would be the shopkeeper's fault if he didn't keep a record. Okay. Back onto Vav, Mafkid Peros Etzel Chavero. So he deposits produce by his friend. Now, produce has got the thing that it doesn't keep that well. Okay, if you leave produce in the corner of the storeroom, mice are going to get to it. Damp might get to it. It's a perishable. So you don't always you're not always held to account for the fact that the produce will diminish while it's in your while it's in your possession. So but what happens is how you've got to work out what is the edge case where this Mishnah is setting up over here. Because if he put the produce in a corner of his machsan, then when his friend comes back to ask for them, he just gives back whatever is in the corner of the machsan. Okay. If he mixed it up with his own grain, so we measured out, he brought in a core of grain. Okay, and he mixed it up with his friend's grain. And now the grain has diminished. So we know how much he presumably knows how much of his own grain he put in it. He knows how much of his grain is, and so you work out. Okay, so let's say his friend put in one core, he had his own two cores. So then 1/3 of the pile is going to go back to his friend. We'll assume that the losses are split proportionately between them. But what happens over here in this Mishnah is that it's the case before where he mixed in a core of his friend's produce with two cores of his own produce, and then he started eating from it, and he can't remember how much he actually consumed. Now his friend comes back and says, "I want a core back," and he can say, "Well, I'm not giving you back a full core, but I've been consuming it, so I can't give you a proportional amount either." So what does he do? Amafkid etzel chavero. Afilu hen ovdin, even if they get lost, lo yiga. Oh wait, hold on. I beg your pardon. I've jumped the gun. I'm already on Mishnah Zion. Mishnah Vav. Let's just we'll remember, just file away what I've just said as a preface to Mishna Zion. Okay, so I don't have to go over it again. Lo yigabahen. So says the Mishnah Vav, if a person's looking after his friend's produce, even if they're going to get lost, you may not touch them because the principle says the Tanakama is that a person would rather have his own have a small amount of his own produce that he made in his own garden because you feel a certain amount of ownership and enough. That's the fact that you grew this, rather than have him sell it and buy somebody else's produce when he wants to use it. Okay, but Rabban Shimon ben Gamliel disagrees and says mochran bifnei beistin. He says no, let him get a beistin to come to his house and say, listen, this I'm looking after my friend's produce over here, but he's gone overseas. I don't know when he's coming back, and in order to look after it for him, I want to sell the stuff and give him the money instead. So the basement would say, okay, that's great, you do that. This is like Hashavas Aveda. Your produce is getting lost. Turn it into cash, which isn't gonna perish. Okay, now back to Mishnah Zion. A person leaves Paris by his friend. He may deduct a certain amount of losses. So this is the situation that I just spoke about, where his friend's produce is in a big pile. He knows that he originally gave him a core of produce. How much does he have to return though? Because the pile has diminished, and you expect it to diminish. Okay, lachitin v'la orez for wheat and for rice. Tish as chatzai kabin lakor. Um, it's four half cabs for a core, which is basically a 1/40th. Is that right? Yeah, 1/40th. Okay, so you can deduct 2.25%, 2.5%. Sorry. Okay, lasorin v'laduchan for barley and for millet, I think it is. What is
Right.
it? Right?
Millet.
And tishas kabin lakor, and then 9 kav for a core. So then that would be 1/20th. Okay, 5%. La kusmin v'lazera pishtan for spelt and for flax seed. Shalosh se'in lakor. So 3 se'ah for a core. So that's 1/10. Hakol lefi hamida, hakol lefi hazman. Everything according to the measure, the original measure. So however much it was originally, it goes proportionately to how much the original amount was, and according to the time. So uh, it can vary according to the time of the year even. לפי הזמן, what does it say? לפי השיעור זה מנקה, for every year. So for every year that this produce is by him, then you deduct this percentage of what's left. Okay. Amar Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri. Why would the mice care about the original amount? You've got a certain amount of mice that come and that are going to come and eat, and it doesn't matter if it's a big pile or a little pile. You expect that the mice are going to eat pretty much the same amount. So why are you doing it as a percentage? It should be a flat amount. Halo ochlin ben miharbe ben mekima. Doesn't matter how much you got originally. Okay, Ella, he's presuming, of course, that the primary source of losses is the mice. Okay, Ella eino motzi lo chesronos ella la kor echad bilvad. So basically, the amounts that we've spoken out over here in terms of how much per core, that is the flat amount. Whether he deposits half a core or 20 core, it's the same amount that the mice eat. That's his expectation. Whereas the Tanakama says has a thing that the mice are evil creatures, and if they see that there's a lot of produce, they come and bring their friends. Therefore, he keeps it as a pro rata. Rabbi Yehuda Omer im haisa mida meruba eno motzich lo chesronos mipnei mosiros. So says Rabbi Yehuda, if it's a large amount, then he cannot deduct from him what comes from the mice. Sorry, just give me a second to refresh myself on this, because I've forgotten what the meaning of that was. Zion. Yeah. Okay. No. Because produce tends to expand in the winter. Ah, that's the idea. Is because the produce, when you've got a large amount over there, if the produce swells, so therefore even if it's less actual produce, it's already swollen in size. So therefore you do have to return the original amount, and therefore so the shomer shouldn't deduct from it. But this is if he's returning it in the winter. If he received it in the summer and returns it in the winter. Okay. Yotzi lo shesus liyayin. He can deduct a sixth from wine. And that's quite a lot. Okay, that when if he's mixed in his friend's wine with his own wine, then he can deduct up to a sixth of what came in. Why? Because the barrels absorb a certain amount. And is there anything else other than the barrels? Yeah, that's right. Because it's if you put them into clay containers, especially they will absorb quite a lot. Rabbi Yehuda Omer Chomesh, he says even a fifth you could remove. Okay, Yotzi lo shlosh, and the machlokes between the Tanakh and Rabbi Yehuda is basically is based on the kind of barrels that they used to use. Rabbi Yehuda's area, they used much more absorbent barrels. Okay. Yotzi lo shloshes lugin shemen lemea. And as far as oil is concerned, he can take out 3 lug of oil from 100. Right. So why is it less? Because it doesn't. I guess the barrel doesn't absorb as much. Log mechza shmarim, 1.5 log of sediment from the oil. Log mechza bela, and only one log and a half of absorption. I guess because oil is more viscous than wine, it doesn't absorb as much into the walls. Im hayashemen mezukak. However, if the oil was already refined, in other words, it didn't have any shmarim, it didn't have any sediment in it, eino motzi lo shmarim, then you cannot deduct that 1.5. Im hayu kan kanim yishanim, and if the containers that he put the oil into were old ones that had been previously used and had already absorbed as much as they could, eino motzi lo bela, then he cannot deduct the amount for absorption. Rabbi Yehuda Omer, Av hamocher shemen mezukak lechaver kol yemos hashana, harei ze mekabel alav lo gomech shmarim lemea. Also, if somebody sells refined oil to his friend anytime during the year, he accepts upon himself the fact that there's going to be 1.5% of shmarim even in the refined oil. So the discussion here is just about is just about the fact that even if you're selling refined oil, you got to accept the fact that it won't be a perfect process, and you still have some sediment in the oil. Okay. All right. Aleph Aleph.
If two persons are holding a cloak and one says I found it and one says I found it, or one says it is all mine and the other says it's all mine, this one must swear that he owes no less of it than half, and that one must swear that he owns no less of half than less than half, and they divide it. If one says it's all mine and the other says half of it is mine, who says it is all mine must swear that he owns no less than 3/4, and he who says half of mine must swear he owes no less than 1/4. And this takes 3/4, and that one takes 1/4. If two were riding an animal and one was riding it and the other one was leading, and one says it's all mine, the other one says it's all mine, this one must swear that he owns no less of it than half, and then the one must swear that he owns not less than half, and they divide it. Whenever they admit or have witnesses, they will divide without an oath. If one, while riding an animal, saw an acquirable object and said to another, "Give it to me," if the latter took it and said, "I have required of it myself," he has indeed inquired it. If after he gave it to him, he said, "I acquired it first," as though he had said nothing.
Okay.
And we're on Bava Kama. Bava Kama, we have Yud Ches. If one steals a lamb from the flock and returns it, and he dies or is stolen, it is responsible.
Sorry, which
You'd guess. Ket,
Sorry, which Masechta are you in?
comma.
We're not doing
Oh,
Bava Kama. We finished Bava Kama.
because I wasn't here yesterday. Okay.
Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Kiddushin Dalad Dalad.
Oh, no. One who married the daughter of a Kohen must investigate her through her four mothers who are eight: her mother, her mother's mother, her mother's father, and her mother, her father's mother, her mother, and her father's mother, and her mother. If she is the daughter of a Levi or a Yisrael, one more is added to them. From the altar and upward is not investigated, nor from the platform and upward, nor from the Sanhedrin and upward. Anyone whose ancestors were known to have been from the public officials or from the charity collectors may marry off their daughters to a Kohen, and it is not necessary to investigate the descent. Rabbi Yossi says also one who signed as a witness to the court of Yeshana. Near Sephoros, Rabbi Chana ben Tinigel says also one who is listed in the king's army. The daughter of a male Kalal is qualified for marrying a Kohen forever. If a non-Kohen married a Kalal, his daughter is married to marry a Kohen. If a Kalal married the daughter of a non-Kohen, his daughter is disqualified for marrying a Kohen. Rabbi Yehuda says the daughter of a male proselyte is like the daughter of a male Kalal.
Okay. Nadarim.
Okay. This is Kedvav. If one said Kohanim meat with respect to my tasting until it is fast, it is forbidden only until before the night before the fast, since its intention was only until the time when it is customary for people to eat meat. Rabbi Yossi, his son, says if one says Kohanim garlic with respect to my tasting it until it is Sabbath, it is forbidden until the night of the Sabbath, since its intention was only until the time when it was customary for people to eat garlic. If someone says to another Kohanim, whatever benefit I might derive from you, unless you come and take for your children 1 quart of wheat and 2 barrels of wine, such a person can annul as a netter without a recourse to a sage. If he says to him, did you say that the other was for my honor? This is my honor. Similarly, someone who says to another Kohanim, whatever abundant benefit you can derive from me, unless you come and give my son 1 quart of wheat and 2 barrels of wine, Rameya said it is binding until he gives. The sages, however, say this person too can annul his netta without recourse to a sage, or if he says, if it is either received. If they were urging him to marry his sister's daughter, and he said, Kohanim, whatever benefits he derives from me forever. Likewise, if one was divorcing his wife and said, Kohanim, whatever benefits me forever. They're permitted to have benefits, since his intention was only for marriage. If he was urging another to eat with him, and he said, Kohanim, your house with respect to my entry, or you drop up your cold water with respect to my tasting, and he is permitted to enter his house and to drink his cold water, for his intention was only for eating and drinking. Okay.
One more.
Reb Eliezer says they may find grounds to annul a netta for a person with the honor of his father and mother. It's a common house, however, forbidden. Said Reb Zadok, before they find grounds to annul another native for him with the honor of his father and mother, they should do so with the honor of God. And so, no Nodorum. The sages agree with Reb Eliezer, however, that for a matter between him and his father and mother, they may find grounds to annul his neder and the honor of his father and mother. Okay. We have Zachem. Zachem Hey Allah. The afternoon daily offering is usually slaughtered at 8.5 hours and offered at 9.5 hours. On the eve of Pesach, it is slaughtered at 7.5 hours and offered at 8.5 hours, whether it's a weekday or the Sabbath. If the eve of Pesach fell on the eve of the Sabbath, it is slaughtered at 6.5 hours and offered at 7.5 hours. The Pesach sacrifice is offered after it. The Pesach offering that one slaughtered for some other designation, and the Kohen to receive this transporter through its blood for some other designation, for its own designation, and then for some other designation, or for some other designation, and then for the own designation, is invalid. What an example of his own designation, and then for another designation, for the designation of Pesach offering first, and then the designation for a peace offering. What is the example of for other designation, and then for its own designation, for the designation of a peace offering, and then for the designation of a peace offering. If he slaughtered it for other than those who can eat it, or other than the registrants for the uncircumcised and contaminated person, it is invalid. If he slaughtered it for those who can eat it and those who cannot eat it, for registrants and for other registrants, he circumcised or uncircumcised person, or for contaminated or uncontaminated person, it is valid. If he slaughtered it before noon, it's valid because it is said in the afternoon. If slaughtered before the afternoon daily offering, is valid before someone stirs with the blood until the daily offering is thrown. Yet if it was thrown, it is valid.
Okay.
Okay.
Nida.
And we have test. If she was accustomed to experience the menstrual discharge at the beginning of all episodes, all the Torah that she had handled for the duration of the episodes of Tameh. if at the end of the episodes all the Torah that she handled for the duration of the episodes are Tahor. Rabbi Yossi says days and hours also are established at fixed periods. If she was accustomed to experience a discharge at sunrise, she was forbidden for cohabitation only at sunrise. Rabbi Yehuda says the entire day is permitted for her. If she was accustomed to experience a discharge every 15th day and she changed to discharging on the 20th day, both this day and that day are forbidden. If you change twice to the 20th day, both this day and that day are forbidden. If you change 3 times to the 20th day, the 15th day becomes permitted, and she has established for herself the 20th day as her fixed period. For a woman does not establish herself a fixed period until she establishes 3 times, and she does not become free from a fixed period until it is uprooted from her 3 times. Women in their virginity are like vines. There is a vine whose wine is red, and there is a vine whose wine is black. If there is a wine whose wine is plentiful, and there is a wine whose wine is meager. Rabbi Yehuda says every vine has wine in it, and that which has no wine is dorchet.
Okay.
Let's see. What else?
Yeah.
Makoros. I mean, Chet Gimel. If one's wife had not previously given birth and she now gave birth to 2 males, he must give 5 selim to a Kohen. If one of them died within 30 days, the father is exempt. If the father died and the sons are alive, Reb Meir says if they gave while they were not yet divided, the estate is given. But if not, they are exempt. Beru says the estate has become liable. If she gave birth to a male and a female, there is nothing for her here. There's nothing here for a Kohen. If 2 wives who had not previously given birth now gave birth to 2 males, he must give selim to a Kohen. If one of them died within 30 days, if he gave the money to one Kohen, he must return 5 selim to him. If he gave it to 2, then he had exact from them. If they gave birth to a male and a female, and 2 males and a female, he must give 5 selim to a Kohen. If they gave birth to 2 females and a male, or 2 males and 2 females, there is nothing here for a Kohen. The one wife who had previously given birth and one had not previously given birth now gave birth to 2 males, he must give 5 selim to a Kohen. If one of them died within 30 days, the father exempt. If the father died and the sons are alive, Reb Meir says, if they gave while they had not yet divided the estate, it is given. But if not, they are exempt. Reb Yehuda says the estate has become liable. If they gave birth to a male and a female, there is nothing here for a Kohen. If 2 wives of 2 men, either of them who had previously given birth, none gave birth to 2 males, each one must give 5 selim to a Kohen. If one of them died within 30 days, if they both gave to a Kohen, he must return 5 selim to them. If they gave to 2 Kohen, they cannot exact it from them. If they gave birth to a male and a female, the fathers are exempt, when the son is required to redeem himself. If they gave birth to 2 females and a male, and 2 males and 2 females, there's nothing here for a Kohen.
Okay. And I'm going to run. Have a
Okay,
lovely day.
Thank you. See you tomorrow.